You didn't even make the cut. That's what my sister told me when I found out my table was set up outside near the trash bins. The corridor reeked of flowers and disinfectant. I could make out the DJ inside starting the countdown to the opening dance. My mother straightened her necklace. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. I clutched the present tighter, the one I'd wrapped the previous evening, smoothed down the front of my burgundy dress, and chose to stay quiet. No fighting, no crying. I got up and stepped out into the cold Vermont morning. Within minutes, the lights inside dimmed and a piercing scream tore through the venue. Here's how it all unfolded. The Vermont morning had that crisp bite to it, the scent of pine mixed with wealth. My sister Leia had picked the lakeside resort for its old-world elegance, the kind of venue where guests snapped pictures just to prove they'd made the guest list. The glass-walled ballroom faced the water, decorated with orchids and candles floating inside crystal bowls. Every table inside sparkled beneath the chandeliers. Mine, apparently, was stationed by the garbage bins. I'd made the 3-hour drive from Boston by myself, running my mother's final text through my mind over and over. Please, Amber, no drama today. It's Leia's day. That's all I'd ever been to her. A rule to follow, a caution sign. Stay silent, take up no room. Don't remind anyone that there's a second daughter. Growing up, we fit the stereotype straight out of a family photo album, the favorite and the forgettable one. Leia collected trophies and praise. I collected report cards nobody bothered to glance at. When she cried, someone came running. When I solved problems, no one noticed. My mother called me low maintenance. My father called me self-sufficient. Both were just softer ways of saying I didn't matter. The last time our whole family gathered was Thanksgiving, 3 years back. I still remember the smell of scorched pie crust and lemon-scented cleaner drifting through the house. Leia was off in Portugal with a new boyfriend, and without her there, the atmosphere felt lighter for once. My mother asked me to fetch an old photo album from her dresser. Instead, I stumbled on her small brown diary, its pages worn soft from constant handling. Curious, I skimmed through it, until I noticed every entry started the same way. Leia's first day of school, Leia's favorite dish, Leia getting into college. Not a single mention of me. Not my birthday, not even my name. When I brought it up, my mother just smiled like the question itself was ridiculous. You never needed all the attention, sweetheart. You were always so fine on your own. That night, I understood there are 2 ways to be forgotten: being overlooked and being erased entirely. I was still thinking about that diary as I made my way toward the reception hall, heels tapping against marble. Through the glass, I could see them posing for photos. My mother in champagne-colored silk, my father adjusting his tie, and Leia radiant in white. She glanced my way once, offered a smile like the kind you give a cashier you'll never think about again. A coordinator with a clipboard stopped me. "You're Miss Hayes?" she asked. "Yes." Her smile wavered as she scanned her list. "You're assigned to the hallway seating?" I laughed, certain she'd correct herself. She didn't. Hallway seating, right next to the trash cans. She gestured toward a small folding table near the service entrance. From that spot, I had a full view into the ballroom. Every glint of light, every burst of laughter, separated from it all by a wall, both real and symbolic. I set my gift down, a small silver-wrapped box I'd spent hours choosing, and watched through the glass. Inside, Leia lifted her glass for a photo while my mother fussed with her veil. Outside, I sat in the draft and repeated the lie I'd told myself for years. It's fine. You don't need them. But underneath, Something firmer was rising in my chest. Maybe I truly didn't need them, but that never gave them the right to act like I didn't exist. I tried to fade into the background the way I always had, but the hallway wouldn't allow it. Staff kept moving through the service door, hauling bins of melting ice, chuckling to themselves. Each swing of the door gave me a glimpse of the ballroom, sparkling gowns, chandeliers, my mother's hand resting on Laya's shoulder like she was crowning her. Then the laughter changed tone. I looked up to see Leia walking toward me, bouquet in hand, veil drifting behind her like smoke. She stopped right at the threshold, her reflection splitting in the glass. Two versions of her, one adored inside, one cruel out here with me. "Well," she said, tilting her head, "looks like they finally put you where you belong." I blinked. What's that supposed to mean? She gave me that same crooked smile she'd worn since we were kids, the one right before she stole the spotlight. "Guess you don't count." The words were soft, but they cut deep, like I was some kind of error in a calculation. For a moment I said nothing, my throat tightening with the effort of swallowing my pride. Behind her, the photographer called out for the bride. She didn't move. She wanted tears, a scene, proof that she'd won. I gave her none of it. "You know," I said calmly, "there's always been room for both of us. You're the one who keeps closing the space." Her eyes narrowed. "Oh, please, Amber, this isn't about you. It's my day. You could at least act happy for me." I let out a short laugh, more air than sound. "You made sure I couldn't even sit in the same room as everyone else. What exactly am I supposed to be celebrating?" For a second, her composure slipped, a flicker of something like fear. Then she straightened up again. "You always twist everything. Maybe Mum's right. You make things difficult." Hearing Mum land like that hurt more than I expected. I pictured that brown journal again, page after page devoted to her, none to me. "I'm not difficult," I said. "You just don't like that I see things clearly." She rolled her eyes. "You sound just like Dad, bitter and pathetic. Face it, Amber, nobody needs your approval. Not now, not ever." She turned and walked off, leaving behind her perfume and her contempt. I watched her white dress sweep across the floor and felt that familiar sting behind my eyes. But this time, it didn't hurt the same way. It burned cleaner. Once the door shut behind her, I picked the small silver box back up off the table, the one I'd wrapped so carefully the night before. I ran my fingers over the ribbon once more, then tucked it into my bag. If they wanted me outside, fine, but I wasn't leaving without doing something first. For a while I just sat there, fingers resting against the smooth edge of the box, listening to the muffled music seeping through the doors. It was almost time for the first dance, the perfect moment, the one I'd always watched from the sidelines. Only this time, the sidelines had sharp edges. I stood, catching my reflection in the glass, composed, maybe even elegant if you didn't look too closely. The gift inside my bag felt heavier than its size suggested. I'd wrapped it with intention, tying the ribbon tighter than it needed to be. It wasn't just a present, it was evidence, something capable of tearing down the image Leia had spent months constructing. 3 weeks earlier, I'd bumped into one of her former co-workers back in Boston. What started as a casual lunch turned into a confession. Leia had been boasting for months about marrying into money, about how simple it was to manipulate Noah's trust. "He's sweet," she'd said, "but naive. A few crocodile tears and I get the house, the money, his last name." She'd laughed about it. My coffee went cold in my hands. I hadn't intended to use any of it. until today. Before I left, I walked back toward the gift table near the entrance. The wedding planner was preoccupied with the centerpieces. I slipped the small silver box in among the other presents, right on top of the pile marked for Laia and Noah. My handwriting on the tag was neat and deliberate. Inside, beneath a crystal photo frame, sat a folded note along with printed screenshots, messages, and proof her old co-worker had shown me. Not a threat, just facts. I stepped back, adjusted my dress, checked my reflection one last time. My pulse was steady, calm in a way that felt unfamiliar. Then I turned and walked toward the exit. The evening air outside hit me hard and cold. The lake glimmered under the string lights, a reflection I no longer needed. Behind me I could hear faint applause, a crowd cheering for a dance I no longer cared to watch. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel invisible. I reached my car, gravel crunching beneath my heels like punctuation marks. No dramatic exit, no final speech, just the quiet click of a car door shutting. As the engine turned over, I glanced back once at the glowing windows, the shapes moving behind the glass, and murmured to myself, "Let the truth do the rest." Inside, the celebration carried on, laughter drifting above the music, a saxophone hitting a smooth note, glasses clinking together. The crowd gathered tighter around the couple on the dance floor. Laia shimmered in that heavy white gown, the picture-perfect image she'd spent months rehearsing. Noah spun her once, twice, camera flashes catching everything in gold. From outside, through those tall windows, it looked like a snow globe, sealed, flawless, unreal. Then the silver box was opened. It happened near the gift table, where a cousin had begun gathering presents for photos. Someone suggested a spontaneous unwrapping for the guests. Laia turned, laughing, and pulled the ribbon loose. The paper fell away, the lid lifted, and there sat the crystal frame, with the folded note tucked beneath it. Her hand froze. "What is this?" Noah leaned in. The note slipped free and landed face up on the table. His eyes caught the screenshots before she could grab them back. He scanned the printed messages, pale blue text bubbles filling the page. One line jumped out. "He's so easy to manage. A few tears, and he buys me whatever I want." The music didn't cut off immediately. It just faded. The violinist lost his place. Laia's hands trembled. "This isn't... Someone's setting me..." Noah said nothing. He kept reading, page after page, each one worse. Jokes about rushing him to sign a prenup, about moving her parents into the guest house once things settled. The same smirk she'd worn toward me earlier now sat frozen and brittle on her face. "Who sent this?" she demanded. Across the room, Noah's mother Victoria had overheard someone whisper the name Amber Hayes near the bridesmaids. Her expression hardened. She crossed the floor with the calm authority of someone used to being obeyed. "I think you should read the rest before pointing fingers," she said. "These came to me this morning, forwarded from a stylist you hired, apparently sent to the wrong thread." Laia went pale. That's impossible." Noah's voice was quiet. "It's real, Laia. The dates line up." He turned to the final page, a photo of a text reading, "The house will be mine by Christmas." A wave of gasps moved through the room. Phones came out. The photographer froze mid-shot. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Laia lunged for the papers. "You can't show people that..." Victoria stepped between them. "You showed it yourself, sweetheart." That's when the screaming began, not loud at first, more like the sound of breath leaving too fast. Leia stumbled back, her gown catching under her heel. No, you don't understand. He's lying. She did this. My sister did this. Noah's jaw tightened. Amber didn't write those messages. She just showed them to me. She's not the jealous one here. Stop. That single word cut through the room like a whip. You did this. You humiliated her tonight and thought no one would ever see who you really are. Every face in the room turned toward them. The DJ lowered the music. A child asked their mother what was happening. Leia's perfect night was unraveling, and she couldn't hold it together anymore. She spun toward our parents. Do something. My mother stood frozen near the head table, champagne glass shaking in her hand. My father stared at the floor, jaw clenched. Neither one came to her defense, for once. You knew, Noah said, voice trembling now. You knew exactly what you were doing. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded document, setting it on the table. This is an annulment petition. I already signed it. Leia stared at the paper like it might bite her. You can't do this, Noah. You can't humiliate me like this. I'm not humiliating you, he said. You did that yourself. Someone cut the music entirely. The silence that followed was thick enough to hum. Then came a sound the guests would remember for years, crystal shattering as the frame hit the floor. Her voice cracked. She's behind this. Amber's behind all of it. Victoria exhaled. Funny. The only thing your sister did was tell the truth. Outside, I'd already started the car, engine idling. The glow from the ballroom windows flickered across the lake's surface. I couldn't make out every word, but I heard the scream, sharp, high, echoing over the water, followed by the dull thud of a chair tipping over. It was the sound I'd waited my whole life to hear, not out of spite, but relief. Inside, mascara streaked down Leia's face. You'll regret this, she shouted, voice cracking. Noah turned away, shoulders slumped. No, Leia, you will. He walked off the dance floor, Victoria following behind him, the crowd parting like a tide. My mother reached for Leia's arm. Sweetheart, maybe we should step outside. Don't touch me, she cried, yanking free. You all wanted this. You never loved me enough. Her voice dissolved into sobs. My father spoke for the first time all night. You should apologize to your sister. The words stunned everyone, even my mother. Leia laughed, a brittle sound that didn't reach her eyes. Apologize to her. She's not even family. My father shook his head slowly. That's where you're wrong. He said nothing more, turning away, shoulders heavy, following the crowd toward the exit. By the time the lights dimmed and staff began sweeping up broken glass, Leia sat alone beneath the chandelier. Her dress, once dazzling, now looked wrinkled and heavy. Her bouquet lay abandoned beside her chair. The same hands that had shoved me aside earlier now grasped at nothing, desperate for something to hold on to. She never saw me leave. I was already gone. Through the fogged-up car window, I watched guests hurry out into the parking lot, whispering as they went. It's already all over social media. Did you see his face? That poor girl. No. The other one. The sister. I didn't feel victorious, just still. I rested my hand against the steering wheel and thought back to the hallway, the smell of flowers and bleach, the squeaky folding chair. How it all started with a seat by the trash cans and ended with the truth laid bare in front of everyone who'd ever looked past me. Justice doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it just whispers, Now they see you. The scream faded into the night. The lake settled back into stillness, glassy and calm. I turned the key, headlights sweeping across the gravel, and drove away from the sound of my sister's perfect world falling apart behind me. By the time I reached Boston, the sky had started turning grey. Highway signs blurred past, the hum of tires steady and low, like white noise after years of chaos I'd trained myself to tune out. My phone buzzed non-stop in the cup holder. 16 missed calls from my mother, 3 from my father, 1 from a number I didn't recognize. I ignored all of them. The silence was worth more than any explanation they could offer. Stepping into my apartment, the air smelled faintly of coffee and rain. Outside, the city was waking up, headlights sweeping across my window. I hung my dress over the back of a chair and studied it, that deep wine color still perfect, untouched by everything that had happened. It looked like armor I hadn't realized I was wearing. A new message came through. "Please answer, Amber. We didn't know." That was my mother. She always said that once things fell apart, we didn't know. But she had known. Every time she told me to stay quiet, every time she laughed along with Leia's jokes, every time she said, "You're fine." I turned my phone face down on the counter and opened my laptop instead. A map of Maine appeared, dotted with small coastal towns. I picked one at random, somewhere I'd never been, and clicked book. A week by the ocean sounded like exactly what I needed. Before heading out, I stepped onto the balcony. The morning air felt cleaner than it had in years. Across the river, sunlight sliced the skyline into gold and shadow. They could keep their apologies, their excuses, their version of events. I finally had mine. For the first time in my life, silence didn't mean being invisible. It meant being free. At my sister's wedding, I sat by the trash cans. This morning, I'm sitting by the river. Same quiet, completely different meaning. Back then, it was humiliation. Now it's peace. Sometimes revenge isn't loud at all. Sometimes it's just the sound of your own footsteps walking out the door. They assumed I'd always stick around, hoping for their approval. But I'm done waiting. I don't beg for a seat at someone else's table anymore. I build my own. If you've ever been pushed to the side by people who are supposed to love you, hear this. Walking away isn't weakness. It's where freedom starts.